The Ghanaian Times begins the morning and says that Ghana rallies support for SDGs at high-level meeting in Accra. Photograph of the president and other people. The president of Rwanda was also there. That's on the Ghanaian Times. Daily Guide says EC bosses probe begins. 3 weeks to file statement. The custodian says Alabi caught Mahama for 2020 NDC bid. The finder, Buidam, generates $335.7 million. And statesman says we have resources for prosperity. That's the president talking. Daily Graphic carries that big story of the probe of 3 EC chiefs. Their photographs here on the front page. One other story on the heritage: LPG marketers to withdraw operations tomorrow if that's in the Daily Heritage. That's the story there. The marketers are suggesting that the policy that will come into force, they did not take part and they are not too happy about it. We'll take a look at that story later on. But my guest this morning, the Member of Parliament for the Secondary Constituency, a member of the NPP, Honorable Andrew Jepa Mesa, is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Brad.
I hope you're doing great.
I'm well.
Thanks for your time with us. And also I have a Member of Parliament for the Tamale North Constituency, a member of the NDC, Honorable Alhaji Suhini, also here. Good morning too.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
I'm terrific by His grace.
Right, so let's start with this one. Almost every newspaper has it, the probe of 3 EC chiefs. Daily Graphic is carrying the story on page 3. The process to ascertain the veracity or otherwise of the allegations leveled against the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and her 2 deputies took form yesterday when the committee set up to investigate the allegations met the 3 EC officials for the first time. The 5-member committee, which sat in camera, began its work after the Chief Justice, Madam Justice Sophia Akufu, had established a prima facie case against Mrs. Osei, Mr. Sule Amadu, and Mrs. Opoku-Agyeman. We're told that on the face value of the allegations, the Chief Justice has found the need for issues to be probed further and for the EC officials to respond accordingly. And that's the story so far. We're told that for 3 weeks, they'll be sitting and have to take a look at the allegations which were made by some EC officers, the petition made against by EC officers to the president. And we quickly take a look at this story. Honorable Jepa Mesa, let me start with you. These are processes, and so for it to begin, perhaps more revelations will come, but already we hear of some of the processes not getting what it needs. For instance, yesterday the chairperson is suggesting, for instance, that she's not received a copy of the petition, the original petition that was sent to the president. Now, will this bring back the EC as the EC that we know?
Well, good morning to my good friend Alassane here, and to your cherished viewers, particularly those in my constituency, Second D. I do not know, because I do not intend to preempt the outcome of the processes. I mean, as we speak, nobody has been found guilty of any offenses.
Exactly, but the perception, the allegations that were thrown about by the chairperson and deputy chairperson.
I'm glad you used the
perception.
Word. I'm glad you used
there's something wrong at the Electoral Commission.
You use the word perception. That is why the Constitution sets out a clear process, pretty unambiguous in terms of what it is that should happen when allegations of this nature are made against certain categories of judicial officers. And the Electoral Commission, the 3 commissioners are deemed to enjoy conditions of service of those judicial officers. And so the process for, as it were, removal or investigating those judicial officers is what has been triggered. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I do not expect any revelations to come. Like, you suspect during the proceedings, because it's intended to be in-camera proceedings. I do not understand why we are fighting, if you like, this battle in public. I really was taken completely aback when I saw this story sometime at 3 a.m. this dawn, that the EC had written to the president asking for a copy of the petition, because I thought that the process having been initiated, CJ having established a prima facie case and accordingly moved forward to set up the committee, necessarily she will be entitled to all the allegations or a copy of the petition and all documentation relating to the allegation to enable her respond. I say so because, I mean, if you look at the constitutional provisions, all it says is that the president receives the petition and forwards it to the office of the Chief Justice for the Chief Justice to then make a determination regarding whether there's a prima facie case for the accused person to answer. And so writing to the presidency for a copy of the petition seemed strange to me.
When the proceedings were has started?
Absolutely. And I understand that when the petition was forwarded to the Chief Justice's office, a statement of the allegations was relayed to her and some response elicited from her. So to go back to the presidency for a copy of the petition, and I think that she's entitled to a copy of the petition. Going to the presidency for a copy is what I found strange. But then again, I mean, I believe
where else could she have gone to?
That's what I'm saying, that if you look at the constitutional provisions, it says the president receives the petition and forwards it. He has no right to make any determination of the petition. He receives a letter, opens it, sees that it's a petition against a particular individual who is occupying the judicial office, and his only duty is to forward that letter or petition to the Chief Justice. Now, the Chief Justice has set up a committee having established a prima facie case. So if you need a copy, where should you go? Is it not the Chief Justices or the committee to inquire for documents relating to? And I think she has a right to those documentation. I mean, there's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. I do not see why a copy should not be made available to her. Now, I'm sure that if she makes appropriate representations to the committee that has been set up, that copy will be made available to her. But beyond that, I do not want to preempt the outcome of this case. There's a hearing that is going to happen in camera. Accusers would have to prove the issues that they've raised against her. She has an opportunity, in accordance with the natural justice principles that is embedded in the Constitution, to, as it were, refute the allegations that are made against her by her accusers. And at the end of the day, some ruling or some conclusion will be arrived by the committee, and appropriate recommendations, whether in favor of her remaining or her being removed, would be made, and the decision will be taken at that point.
You said she has every right to receive a copy of the petition. When should this be given her? The process started yesterday. Yes,
and so I think that she should make representations to the committee. I'm sure, well, from the story, she went to the Chief Justice's court with solicitors, and I believe that Mr. Tadiosori is a very competent lawyer, provide her with the needed advice. She herself is a lawyer, and I'm sure that of course, I mean, you can't have an action at the one forum and seek information from another forum. I mean, that was just my thought, that appropriately the forum where the matter is being determined is where every information that she requires regarding the inquiry should be obtained from.
Right. I'm grateful. Alhaji Suhuyini, so the chairperson has some concerns, one of which is that 6 months after the petition, she's yet to receive a copy. Honorable Japamesa, your co-panelist, is suggesting that, well, the forum or the source which she's asking for the petition is wrong, even though he agrees that she is entitled to get a copy of the petition.
Right. Let me say good morning again to you, and good morning to my honorable colleague, and good morning to our viewers. I think that this is a very, very worrying development as far as our democracy is concerned, and we need not take it lightly at all. I don't think that we should wait until things get to the head before we begin to react, because it is a very, very serious threat to our democracy. What is happening like a joke is a very, very serious threat to our democracy and the survival of same. You realize that in 2018, if we are to believe His Excellency the President, even though there are very good examples in 2017 that can make one doubt him. But if we were to believe him, you would realize that we will have a number of activities in 2018 that will or can only be supervised by the Electoral Commission. You're talking about a possible referendum on the creation of new regions. You're talking about a possible election of district chief executives. And that is for 2018. You also have in 2019 the district assembly elections coming up, which possibly will be in September 2019. Clearly, that will be less than almost a year to the next general election. So you're talking about the Electoral Commission that is supposed to be preparing in earnest for the possible election of DCEs next year and a possible conduct of referendum to create new regions next year. And then the general elections in 2020 and the district assembly elections in 2019. Battling for, identity and for survival, because that is clearly what is happening with this ongoing, I don't know whether to call it persecution or probe into allegations leveled against the chairpersons of the Electoral Commission. So it is a very, very serious threat to the survival of our democracy. And that is why civil society organizations, religious organizations, our international partners, and all those who mean well for our democracy, especially because we are an example to emulate on the African continent, should not take this lightly. It is risky. So I don't want to even go into the merits and demerits of the allegations that have been made. I'm just looking at what this portends for the future operations of the Electoral Commission this far. Now, again, without going into the merits and demerits of the allegations that have been raised, I would have wished that a government formed by the New Patriotic Party would have been more careful in dealing with this electoral commissioner. And again, I'm saying I'm not looking at the merits and demerits. I'm talking about why I think the NPP government should have been more careful and more tactical, and perhaps more refined in dealing with issues relating to this electoral commissioner, Madam Charlotte Osei. You recall the hula baloo, the brouhaha that surrounded her appointment. Big, notable people in the NPP said many things unprintable in some cases, and suggested in other cases that she will be removed. It's on record. Many notable people in the MPP, when she was appointed, said she didn't deserve that position, and that all that they were going to do to make it impossible for her to operate, because at the time they believed she was only appointed to pronounce the NDC victorious in the 2016 general election. So they made pledges and public pronouncements to the effect that they will not work with her. And that is why in government today, every move of theirs should be very calculated, else it will be very easy, and you can't, you only but have to forgive anyone who thinks that this is just a continuation of the plot to remove Madam Charlotte Osei. You only but have to forgive anyone who thinks so, because of the earlier pronouncements and the stance against her appointments. So I am looking at it all play out, and I'm wondering what is happening. Now, when you talk about these things, and you see, I'm saying it because we all, maybe to borrow Honorable Alhaji A.B.A. Hussaini, he will say that when a hyena howls in the evening, and then at dawn, a goat is missing, you only have one suspect. It is possible it's the hyena who has eaten the goat. So that is why they have to be careful. Now, when you talk, can I proceed?
Now, I'm only assisting you.
What I'm saying is that even though it's circumstantial, but what I'm saying is that
to establish that indeed is the hyena, you have to have evidence that
can I proceed?
Only one conclusion.
Can I proceed?
You allow him to.
What I'm saying is that you cannot blame anyone who thinks that it is the hyena who has eaten the goat until you have contrary evidence. You can't. Now, when you talk about these things, what you are told is that a petition was sent to the president, and the president has no interest in it. So he simply forwarded the petition to the Chief Justice as required by Article 1463 of the Constitution. Now, Article 1463 talks about the removal of justices and so on, chairman of tribunals and all that. Now, in the wisdom of the Constitution, there is a reason why the petition to remove a justice of the Superior Court has to go to the presidency, even though in the end, the Chief Justice is the one who will perform the function of forming a committee to look into it. Are you saying that if I want to petition for the removal of the Electoral Commission chair, and I know that the Chief Justice is the one who will form a committee to determine a prima facie case, are you saying I do not have the address of the Chief Justice?
So your point is that there's a reason why it goes to
There
the president.
is a reason why it goes to the presidency, so that the president becomes the gatekeeper. The president becomes the one who weighs the petition and decides if it should be considered or not. So it is disingenuous to say the president has no hand in it. He simply received the petition and forwarded it. There is a very good reason why the petition has to go to the president, even though the Constitution says that it is not the president who will determine who looks into the petition. If the framers of the Constitution didn't want the president's thinking and the president's action on it, the framers of the Constitution would have simply asked you to direct your petition to the Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice has an address and the Chief Justice can be petitioned. So why did the Constitution say direct your petition to the president? So that the president will be the one to decide if the petition has, to be considered or not. Now, the other ridiculous part of it is the fact that this petition, when it first emerged, we were told 60 people. It reduced to 19 people. Now we are told 3 drivers, or is it 2 drivers?
Were it 2 drivers?
2 drivers were those who were there. And look at what Madam Charlotte Osei is now seeking. A prima facie case apparently has now been determined against her. Yet she doesn't even know what she's been accused of.
That's not true.
Why is she now writing for the petition? You see, let us, that's why I say...
That's not true. I mean, I wonder why...
If
every NDC person that has a discussion on this subject...
He was almost wrapping up.
Please, go ahead.
Right.
You see, maybe once again, another proverb to help my friends in the NPP. When you are pounding fufu for the blind man, in order to convince him that you are not eating his yam, you have to be whistling. And that is what the NPP is failing to understand. You see, when you speak in this manner, it is very easy and tempting for somebody, especially my friends in the NPP, to think you are defending the Electoral Commissioner.
But that is exactly what you are doing.
That is not what I am doing.
Because otherwise you wouldn't be picking and choosing.
Honorable Mesa, when I come
that's
to you...
That's precisely what you guys are doing.
And tell me what you disagree with.
If what I say...
He's wrapping up in just a few
seconds. What I say pricks your conscience to think of it as a defense of the EC chairperson, I have no apologies. But what I am saying is that there are too many things that, lend support to the thinking that this may be a continuation of an agenda that started in opposition. And I am giving you examples of things that, contribute to that. And it is only in the interest of the government and for our own democracy to do the right thing. Because we all are stakeholders in this democratic process.
Okay.
And you and I are earning salary as operators and workers in that democracy. And remember, the alternative will make you and I jobless. Because you see, whenever the constitution is overthrown, the executives remains. In some cases, the judiciary even remains. The only institution that is put on ice is usually the legislature. Okay. So we are stakeholders and we must be careful that we are not blinded by partisanship to see the glaring wrongs that are done in this process.
I am grateful. Right. He's raising issues.
And I will deal with all of it.
First, he says that the chairperson doesn't know what she's been accused of. And you think, you disagree?
That's not true.
Okay.
Because in her own letter that Joy FM intercepted, she says that the Chief Justice wrote to her with the statement of the allegations. That is the news reportage. But that she is not in the know as to who her accusers are.
Okay.
And so a copy of the petition should be made available to her. And I'm saying that yes, she's entitled to a copy of the petition. But if you read the Constitution, look, this is not the first time in the history of this country where a process to remove a judicial officer has occurred. In that instance, it was not a worrying development. It was not. When Madam Loretta Lamte went through the same process under your government, it was not a worrying development. Is it not the same process? Why do we want to pick and choose? That because it is Mrs. Charlotte Osei, it is persecution?
Is it not the Electoral Commission? Shraj and Electoral Commission?
They are all absolutely under the Constitution.
Okay.
The officers are sacrosanct. They are protected. Indeed, look, I have said
you won't put one on top of the other?
Not at all.
By way of
how so?
Our democracy?
None whatsoever.
Okay. All right.
Shraj, Electoral Commission, National Commission for Civic Education, they are the same.
Okay.
Okay, the commissioners who are appointed there have a tenure of office until retirement. or until this process is initiated to remove them for stated misconduct. So let's not pick and choose. Look, and I'm saying that, look, let me finish. If this government has an interest in the removal of Mrs. Osei, okay, you know my recommendation? Do you know my recommendation? She should just be transferred. Because she was transferred from the NCCE to the Electoral Commission. Even though she had a protected office, she was not removed on Article 146 when she was moved from the NCCE to Electoral Commission. So there's a clear precedent that could easily have been followed. But in spite of all the issues that people raised, and people had issues with her appointment, why not? Why not?
Is that not the reason why Honorable Soyini thinks that this government should tread cautiously because of certain comments from certain party officials?
Assuming that all the things that he said are right, that people made issue, and that when a hyena holes at night and the goat gets missing in the morning, okay? So if you need the goat for Christmas, you don't kill it because a hyena has holed. Allegations have been made against her, regardless of the comments that people made in the MPP.
You're not worried about the
I'm not worried at all. Because I know on authority that
opposition in government now want to remove her.
No government official or the government is interested in a removal.
Yes, I'm saying, yes, I know, but I'm saying that, are you not worried about the perception?
I'm not worried.
That then
people
opposition now in government want to remove
playing politics with it. Okay. And let's tell them to stop. That's what we have to do. Okay? Allegations have been leveled against her. It is not the case that the president has asked her to leave office. There's a constitutional process. She has a right of hearing. So let her go there and prove that all the allegations that have been leveled against her are untrue. Why do we do this to ourselves as a nation? That because people made issue about her appointment, even if she's committed some wrongdoing, we should leave her to sit there. And that when people bring an allegation against her, the president should sift through when the Constitution clearly gives him only one role. Look, you say what? There's a reason.
He also raised that issue that there's a reason, of course, that the Chief Justice has an address. And so there's a reason why the Constitution says under 146, get it to the president first. You disagree with him on that?
Article 146, okay, is a process for removing judges of the Superior Court. Do you understand? It's a process. No, wait.
Is the EC chairperson in that category?
No. But because her terms and conditions are equivalent to the Superior Court judges, that is why this process applies to her.
So she's seen as a judge. Okay.
You understand? So the reason that he is saying the Constitution made the president gave him some other role other than being a postbox is simply not true.
Oh, that is
because I'm saying no. Wait. It
is a fact. That's why he says.
Wait. This process is for the removal of judges, and that when a petition is leveled against a judge, it is for good reason that the Constitution says let it go to the president, because we don't want the Chief Justice just receiving it and putting it in her trash bin and shredding it.
What reason is that? He thinks that it is to allow the president to take another look at it.
It is for the president to know that a petition has come.
Okay, just to know.
Absolutely.
Okay. So he has no option at all.
There's no option whatsoever, and the Constitution is clear.
And the president can be copied?
Look, the Constitution...
Can't you write to the Chief Justice and copy the president?
I am not the person who drafted this Constitution.
Yes.
The framers of the Constitution clearly had a reason why this process is what it is.
And you think it's just to let the president know that we have written...
Okay, in any event, all these officers are appointed by the president. So if a petition comes, it has to go to the president. But then again, because we do not want the president to interfere in the administration of justice, it goes back to the Chief Justice to make a determination. When it affects the Chief Justice, it goes to the Council of State.
Okay.
Let's not play politics with everything. okay, this allegation that have been leveled against Mrs. Osei, it should go through the due process, and that is exactly what is happening. If she's found culpable, so be it. If she's found not to have committed the offenses that are alleged against her, so be it. Why do we have to think that because people said that they were opposed to her appointment, necessarily they will wish? In any event, was she not there when we won the election?
All right. I'm grateful.
Please.
Right. Maybe just some quick.
Quick one. Then we'll move on.
First of all, my colleague here talks about the Chief Justice writing to Madam Charlotte Osei and stating the allegations. That is not true. I also listened to the news report. And yes, she was informed of a petition that she has received as Chief Justice, which she's setting up a committee and all that. But even in that statement, I mean, in writing to the presidency, Madam Charlotte Osei quotes that letter from the Chief Justice and says that the petition, however, was not attached. And so she wants a copy of the petition. So you just write to me and tell me that there is a petition that has been sent to me, you know,
alleging
making allegations. So I want the petition. You are stating it. You are saying there's a petition alleging ABCD. How do I know if that is, perhaps that's your understanding of what the allegations are? Let me get the petition as a lawyer, and with my lawyers, I will study it and make it clear and make my response clear. Then he talks about the petition going to the president because the president only has to know. There's another way that you can notify the president. That's by petitioning the Chief Justice and copying.
That is not for you to determine.
And copying the president.
To say.
So you see,
it is not your view. Your views don't matter.
If it
it's
was
the constitutional provision.
Honorable Mesa, he
has
a right to his view. So,
but his views do not matter. That is not what is contained in the constitution.
But allow him
Let's not confuse our listeners.
Allow him
please.
to air his views, please. Honorable Mesa.
Your views do not matter in this instance at all. It is the constitution. It's in black and white. And that's what is going to happen, not what you think should happen. Please.
Honorable Mesa, if you can calm down, please.
I'm very calm.
Okay, please. Please go.
Yeah, so the constitution that he talks about does not say that it is for the president to know. That's his thinking. Yet he says, my thinking shouldn't matter. You see, the constitution doesn't say that it's for the president to know. The constitution says that. The constitution says that. No, the constitution says that you write to the president. You send your petition to the president. And I am saying that the framers of the constitution cannot make that long procedure, cannot create that long procedure for nothing. Because if they wanted just the president to know, as he is suggesting, the other way would have been to petition the Chief Justice and copy the president. But you know, he sums it up when he says that when you want a goat for Christmas, you shouldn't care about perceptions. And so, for me, it is a goat. It is a goat. It is a goat that they want for Christmas.
Okay. You know exactly what I meant.
Because you see, and this is only in line with what we have already seen.
Is she about the law?
No, that is what we have already seen.
About the law.
Honorable Mesa.
What are you talking about?
That is in line.
When Mrs. Madam Loretta Lamte was being removed through the same process.
That is in line with what we have already seen in many other state institutions since the MPP came to power. We've seen it from the Bank of Ghana, we've seen it from BOST, we have seen it at TOR, we have seen it at National Service Secretariat.
Look,
we have seen it at
I'm saying that the government is even being lenient
you are
to people.
seen to have been,
if you hear the former president saying that he has people in the Flagstaff House who give him information about resignation letters that were drafted, what does it tell you? All he's telling is that remove all the people who are there, give me information.
What is your point here?
He's justifying.
I'm justifying. Yes, I'm telling you that the government is even lenient.
So what is your point here?
Yeah.
What
they should sack everyone who is perceived to be
because they are being political. That's what they're doing.
Are you?
They've loaded all the public offices with political people.
Is the EC chair one of them?
Unfortunately, I do not have the power. No, we are not talking in relation to EC. I've made my point relating to EC. Okay, he brought instances of other public office holders who are not acting as state officials.
His Excellency the Ambassador
as political officers of the
NDC. MPP man, you are not Ghanaian. The Ambassador said it, the High Commissioner.
I am grateful. We'll leave it here. Let's move on.
You don't deserve to work in any state institution.
Some other issues with I don't know if the VRA
duty to the state.
Give me the Daily Heritage. Let me quickly take a look at what is there. This LPG rail circulation policy is back again. Now, we're told that the marketers want to withdraw operations from tomorrow if they are not made part of what is going on. We're told by the story on the Heritage that the LPG Marketers Association felt the decision of the ministry to bring back the policy without their input was wrong. They are saying that as major players, we think as various associations in industry, we should have been invited to give our quota from the beginning of the process. When we look at the policy, our roles have been taken away from us by a new set of people who decided that we were not going to be part of it. Another meeting, we're told, was called sometime in October that they wanted to pass the policy, so we should bring our input. We resisted the attempts to pass the policy because the policy was inimical to us and our job. Now, the Marketers Association are saying simply by the story that the policy that is about to be implemented, once they don't have or they didn't make input into it, they are likely not to benefit. And so from tomorrow, if they don't hear anything from the Energy Ministry, they're going to withdraw from the market. You won't get LPG to buy. And they cited the fact that they have taken monies from financial institutions, and their fear is that their money will be blocked if the policy comes into force. Some of them will be shut down and they can't get back their investments. Honorable Mesa, this issue is back again. The marketers are simply saying that the policy as drafted by the Energy Ministry is without their input, and so they are worried about it. I don't know. These stakeholders and inputting them or making their presence felt in the policies that we draft, is it something that we're not doing well?
Well, I do not have the details regarding this story, but I've not seen the policy. But if I recall, when the decision was taken to set up these plants, the understanding that we were made to have by the Ministry of Energy and the MPA was that the present regime, where bulk vehicles bring the gas and, as it were, discharge into a receptacle, was what was going to be taken away, and that the bottling was going to be done at a designated plant, and the cylinders, as it were, sent to the depots of the marketers to then sell to the public, so that I do not have to take my cylinder there, stand for it to be refilled for me. I just have to go to the Lois that I buy my LPG and exchange my cylinder with an already filled cylinder bottle and take away. So these marketers were still going to be the people who were going to play that same role, except that now they don't have to expect a vehicle coming to dispense at their depot. Already filled bottles would be delivered based on their own orders to be delivered to them for onward sale to the public. So I thought it was a pretty straightforward arrangement, which does not necessarily need additional input from the marketers before the policy is formulated. And if their complaint is that the policy has changed, I don't know whether they themselves have cited a copy of the policy. I have not. And so I beyond that cannot speak more to it. But I'm sure that these are issues that can be resolved easily between the ministry, the MPA, and the marketers, because I mean, the expectation is not for people to go to the bottling plants to go and buy the gas from there. The gas cylinder bottles ought to be made available at proximate locations for people to access. And so I really do not see their fear. If my understanding of the policy as explained by the ministry is anything to go by, and I do not have any reason to doubt that that is what is going to happen. And so I think that, well, they've given a day's notice to the ministry. The ministry, I understand, is prepared to take into consideration the input of all stakeholders. And I'm sure that the Minister of Energy and his deputies, together with the NPA, would engage with them in the course of today to resolve whatever outstanding differences that they are, so that we do not have them go on strike tomorrow. That clearly will impact people who would need to purchase gas from the stations for whatever commercial or domestic purposes that they need them for.
Grateful. Honorable Sweeney, so policies and I mean those that it affects and soliciting their inputs, we seem to be always running into problems.
Yeah, first of all, I hope they do not carry out their threat of going on a strike, because that will be making an already bad situation worse. And I'm talking about the fate, unpleasant fate of electricity consumers in some parts of the city who are unable to purchase power, even with their money and with enough generation capacity, and so are forced to sleep in darkness. If their problems will be compounded by the unavailability of LPG, then it is going to even be worse, because you can imagine if you don't have lights to heat the water in the morning to bath, and you have gas, you can at least manage to survive. So I'm hoping that they don't embark on the strike action that they are threatening. And you know, it's all interesting, and this is for laughs. I mean, I was thinking about it, and it just occurred to me that an incompetent government generates enough power, but a competent government is not able to just sell the power. Isn't that ironic?
I will take it just as you said it.
Isn't that ironic?
I see.
You know, but yes, I don't.
It is a challenge just selling the power.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope the LPG Marketers Association do not compound an already bad situation. But you know, coming to the issue at stake for which they are making this threat, I have been listening to the NPA boss, Hassan Tampuli, and I think so far he's doing great with his outfit. And somehow, from my perspective, I'm kind of convinced that it's, you know, a very good intervention.
The recirculation.
The recirculation. And you know, even the president of the Marketers Association now claims that it was a policy by the previous government, and they had to negotiate, thinking there will be some changes, and they are not seeing those changes. But I'm saying that from the explanations that I hear, it sounds like a very good idea to me. But you know, the one who lives in his room knows where it leaks. So they are the people on the ground, and that is why it would have been important that their views are factored into the introduction of the policy. And from what I gather, listening to the president of the Marketers Association, it's not as if they are also out and out against the policy. They are not outrightly against the policy. They simply are worried about the possible impact, negative impact on their operations and their business. And the fact that they are not, as we speak, getting even funding from the financial institutions, because the whole narrative seems to suggest that their business will be taken over by some other group of people. But I don't get that impression when I listen to the Minister of Energy, when I listen to the NPA. And so I think there is either a missing gap, or there is something in the policy that, as marketers, they know will work against them, which the policy makers are not telling us. And that's why I said that the one who lives in his room knows where the roof is leaking. So you may listen to the policymakers and it may sound all nice and good that their businesses will not be affected, but they are operating, and so they may know some other, subtle ways by which their businesses
the policy
in the long
is
run
likely
will be.
to close down some of these gas filling stations.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
those
and those are the concerns.
Which are unable to meet the standards will have to give way to those who meet the standards.
That's
yeah.
and that
so
is
I think that's where they're
that is where they are, and that is going to lead to, yes, even if it's going to just be losses for the business person, it's also going to lead to job losses, and an increase in the unemployment rate of the country. So that is why it has to be carefully, discussed and implemented in such a way that jobs will be protected and businesses will be protected. I think we all agree that there has to be something done differently to guarantee our safety at these, gas stations. But it should not be done at the expense of businesses and at the expense of jobs. And that is why the two bodies, policymakers on one hand and the marketers on the other, need to work together to ensure that in the end, a safe method or a safe way of, redistributing gas is done in tandem with jobs and businesses that are already in operation, so that we do not have one problem solved only to create
another one,
many more other problems.
Okay, I'm grateful. Let's quickly wrap up on this one. The VRA we dam measure, we're told that it's not concretized yet. The chief executive has been talking about it, and he says that it still remains a government decision, and they're expected to meet today to once again take a look at the idea of merging the Weipa Authority and the Volta River Authority. He said that there's a committee that has been formed to look at the measure of the two organizations, and it's a government decision, and the government will be advised by the committee as to how to go about it. And he says it's even premature to be talking about it, but it's a government decision and so be it, he said while addressing the media in Accra. Some are beginning to raise concerns about attempts at selling the thermal plants of VRA, and perhaps the concerns, one of which is this, one of the strategies in order to get rid of the thermal plants of VRA. But Honorable Mesa, let's quickly bite on this one before we wrap up. We VRA measure, is it to strengthen the energy sector?
Well, I guess that the experts in the field would have advised that that may be the route to go, and potentially is as a result of the decision to separate. You see, I have not heard anybody say that government wants to get rid of the thermal assets of VRA. What I've heard it being said is that it's the intention of government to delink the hydro from the thermal, and when that is done, clearly there may be the need for a new vehicle to manage the thermal assets, for VRA to focus on the hydro assets. And since Bui is hydro, maybe the decision is further to consolidate the two, so that we have one entity managing our hydro power assets and another entity managing the thermal assets. Of course, from the story, clearly it's not been firmed up yet, right, and that some discussions are still ongoing. I'm not an expert in energy, and I only know law. So clearly, if the experts believe that that is the way to go, and they advise government to go that route, I think that that is ultimately what is going to happen. I guess it's early days yet. We'll still follow the space and see how it pans out. But I guess that because if you look at the cost of producing the hydro as opposed to fueling the thermal, clearly there's some disconnect, and VRA has always been suffering because of the impact that the thermal cost of operating the thermal has on their hydro operations. Because I mean, the last time that I bothered to check the VRA's annual reports, it will surprise you to know that it was a very profitable company until 2011, 2012 thereabouts, when, of course, arising out of the energy crisis, and all that, they started going down. So I guess that to bring them back into profitability, that is the decision that the experts had advised government to go, and so we'll watch the space and see how the developments pan out.
Grateful. The measure to strengthen VRA and give it more power?
I'll come to that, but my worry is that I'm unable to see a clear policy direction as far as our energy sufficiency is concerned since this government took over. You recall that the previous administration had some targets, of one of which had to do with the generation capacity of 5,000, and by December 2016, the generation capacity was around 4,500 thereabout. And if you look at the 2018 budget, the finance minister talks about the generation that is potential, that is also coming on board next year. And these were all plans and projects that the previous government put in place to meet the 5,000 target. I'm just reporting what are facts. Do you get it? So clearly that there was a plan, and there was work in progress, and there were even results, and there were other in the pipeline which are being delivered as we speak. You also had the Ghana gas that was brought on stream to ensure that there was constant gas supply to our thermal plants, reducing the amount of money we spend on importing crude into this country, which always had a very hard hit on our currency. So, and then you had the Sankofa and TEN all coming on board to increase the fuel availability to power. So clearly you had a plan, and this was going to lead into even the bauxite production and aluminium and the reactivation of Valco, where the Akosombo Dam, which generates at the least cost, was going to be dedicated to the Valco. And so there was a plan. Now, I've been listening to the energy minister, I've been listening to the finance minister, I listened to the president. I don't see a clear direction. And that is why I don't think the concerns of workers that the decision to merge BUI and VRA is only so that the government can get rid of some of these generation plans, the power plants that they have. I mean, you cannot discount those fears. They cannot be said to be unfounded, because you see, when you don't know what the plan is, as in this case, you are forgiven to suspect anything. And that is the situation we have now. I agree that VRA has more experience when it comes to managing a hydro plant. And so I think there is some wisdom in adding BUI, which is a hydro plant, to VRA, so that with their long term,
that does not constitute a plan.
With their long term, experience, they may be able to do that. But I've also even heard somewhere that there are attempts to privatize and sell off some of our thermal plants, when the previous plan was to ensure that we became energy sufficient to the point that we even export energy to other neighboring countries. So why have we all of a sudden gotten to a place where it looks as if we have enough, when our demand is increasing at skyrocketing, rate, and we seem to be acting like we have enough so we can get rid of something. I mean, that is the fear. I'm not saying that is the reality, but that is the fear, and I'm saying you can't dismiss that in the absence of any clear directive or direction as far as the power management is concerned.
I thought I indicated right here that I haven't heard anybody say that they are selling off or disposing of our thermal assets.
The workers are suspicious of it, and they may know better than you and I.
But you are sitting here articulating it to the whole
I'm saying you can't dismiss their fears. Yes, I haven't articulated. I just say you can't dismiss it. It may not be.
I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time there. He's a member of parliament for the Secondary constituency, Honorable Andrew Japan Mesa. Elijah Suyin is a member of parliament for the Tamale North constituency, a member of the NDC. We're grateful if you send in your comments. We'll read them. Stay with us. There's more coming up.
But it's been about 3 months down the line since free SHS started, and we know that situations in various schools are not anything to write home about. But we see what Okuapeman Senior High School is going through about 3 months down the line since free SHS started, and Solis Rose Corte has that for us.
Dining is over, and it is back to class for students of the Okuapeman School in the Eastern Region. The school is one of the accredited inclusive education institutions in the country. Authorities tell us of the 843 students currently enrolled in first year, 22 are visually impaired. With 13 boys and 9 girls, this is the highest number the school has seen since the inception of the program. The number is expected to rise, with more of them trickling in even well into the second term. At the Okuapeman Senior High School, visually impaired students are exempt from taking calculatory subjects such as core and elective mathematics. So the Okuapeman School has 6 general arts classrooms, and of the 6, 1 is reserved for visually impaired students. This is GA2. Now, mind you, it is an inclusive education program going on, and so they do not have a class just for them, but they are actually in the class with sighted students as well.
John, hello. How are you? All right, my name is Solis Rose and I work with TV3. I'm just going to be spending a few minutes with you. Is that okay? Yes. Great. So where will I sit? Who will let me sit beside them?
Okay. In this classroom were some familiar faces. Some of these young people sat for the Basic Education Certificate examination in June this year.
My name is Japhet.
Japhet.
Yes.
I remember you from when you were writing the BAC.
Yes.
How are you doing?
By the grace of God, I'm doing well.
Are you happy with your placement here?
Oh yeah, I'm actually happy because all things are going on well, smoothly.
How comfortable are you with the system that is running, where you are here with everybody else, some of your colleagues, and then some of your other colleagues who are sighted as well?
Oh yeah, I'm comfortable because they help me in doing everything, especially when transcribing my work into the print form of writing.
What's your favorite subject so far?
Oh, actually, the subject which is going on, which is government.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, I want to be a lawyer.
I'm also here with Simon. What's your favorite subject?
CRS.
What do you want to become when you grow up?
I want to be like you.
You want to be like me? Simon wants to, so you want to be a journalist. Who's your favorite journalist?
My favorite journalist, Danko Kuyabo. TCF.
I see. Well, Dan, that's for you. Do you have any challenges?
The challenge we are having, we can't write pen. This is our right machine. So we want a Braille textbook.
What's your name?
My name is Cecile. I feel comfortable and okay being with them. I've been talking to them and making friends with them.
Brief about all individual
Right. It reminds me of senior high school. Well, at the time it was SSS, but now it's changed. And how, at least everyone had a desk to themselves, but right in the video we saw, some students have to share desks and all that. But anyway, some are happy to. And one guy says he wants to be a journalist. We hope that dream comes to reality.
But I'm happy. I'm happy that the inclusive education thing is indeed working. The infrastructure isn't there, but at least we're seeing the effort being made by authorities, officials of some of these schools to get them that conducive environment for them to be able to learn. We will never have a situation where we have a total complete set of infrastructure for them. So getting them into the regular schools and getting them the opportunity to move on with your colleagues who can see is indeed a great one. I guess more support would need to be given to these ones. All right, we're stepping on the brakes for some time now, but we are telling you that Give Us P Power capsules. It relieves you from that sexual weakness that has been bothering you all this while. You're running into trouble anytime you get home because you're told that you're not a real man. What you need to do is to take Give Us P Power capsules. Now, Give Us Cool capsules also relieves you from severe waist pains, constipation, piles, phlegms, and menstrual pains. Get rid of them. Use Give Us Cool capsules.
Certainly, and do visit your doctors out there, because now what the problem is, everybody in Ghana seems to have turned into a doctor, and everything is cocoa. We have cocoa of the eye, near, nose, every part of the body. So I ask, what exactly is cocoa? Anyway, if you have answers for me, send us messages tomorrow. We'll read them. Have a blessed day. We bring it to a wrap here on New Day, right from TV3 tonight. 8 p.m. Sadia will also be showing. If you missed yesterday, certainly catch us today. Sadia will be a good one. But we'll wrap. We were just taking a break. We'll be back to end the show for you. So stay here with us on New Day. Well. So you've heard so much noise about foreign telenovelas, but this December, TV3 is invading your home with more excitement because it's bringing you locally produced drama series. Of course, what we're talking about is Solutions. Imagine a television series that answers all your questions about business, including attracting loans, keeping accurate financial records, and above all, staying profitable at all time. In addition to Sadia, we are also adding Solutions, another groundbreaking television series about doing competitive business in Ghana. It is fun and intellectually stimulating. If you're a business owner or intend to own a business, don't miss this all-new, informative, and truly educative business drama series known as Solutions. It is brought to you in collaboration with Premium Bank and Genius Africa. Watching the premiere of Solutions this Wednesday, that's tomorrow, and the story will continue to unfold right here on TV3, which is first in news and best in entertainment. But yesterday, you saw us interview the Director of Public Health from the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Bedu Sarkodie, and of course, we have an exclusive with him as he discusses the outbreak of H1N1, which is known as swine flu here in Ghana.
In April, the cases that we were dealing with in April were confirmed to be due to Neisseria meningitis type C. That was very clearly confirmed meningitis and was managed as such. Unfortunately, some of them died, up to about 7 of them or so. So we have lost life in the two circumstances, 7 here, 4 there. But then they were dealing with 2 different situations. The challenge we had with the April outbreak was that the students, when they were referred from the school infirmary, they went to about 8 or more different hospitals. And it did not register well early in the health records because they were not coming back when they died. So the deaths were not being clustered in the school. And that is why it took a bit of time, more than 1 week, for it to be registered that we are having cluster of death in Kumaka in April. There was the need for health authorities and that's GES, Ghana Health Service, and then also Ministry of Health, Ministry of Education, to come out with modalities to enhance school health nationwide, using the experience at Kumasi Academy. And this has resulted in designating every school to specific hospital. There has come to the conclusion and planned for some basic screening mechanisms for all the new entrants. So we have adequate baseline health reports and records from all the students at the time of entry.
Okay. With the current issue at hand, has surveillance been conducted?
Surveillance is always ongoing. This is a school where about 5 months ago, meningitis outbreak had killed 7. And the initial symptoms, they had fever, they had headache, there were general bodily pains. And of course, if you have general bodily pains, it will also affect the muscles of the neck. So there were neck pains as well. This is enough for everybody to think meningitis. So we did what needed to be done. There are various investigations, and the management was on that line. Then the tests that were conducted all proved negative.
Okay.
And then subsequently, I think a day of about day 4, that the symptoms of respiratory infection became much prominent. And then that was what led to the need to think of a severe acute respiratory infection. Appropriate sample, being throat swab, was taken to the necessary lab, and then the investigation finally came up to be influenza type A H1N1. Surveillance, it didn't start at the time that this condition started in the school. We have surveillance system for influenza nationwide. Okay. Every region, we have more than 2 sentinel sites. That every week, they take samples from people with symptoms that could be influenza-like illnesses.
And this includes all the senior high schools across the country?
No, you have to first report to a hospital first. That's a sentinel. Okay. You need to express symptoms that could be influenza or any upper respiratory infection. And then you take the sample. So this is hospital-based surveillance. Periodically, we get 1 or 2 H1N1 influenza type A, and indeed that seems to be the predominant flu circulating in the country. Okay. But then the flu was not that aggressive and hardly was killing. Indeed, in 2009, when we had the pandemic of H1N1, when it was declared public health emergency of international concern by the World Health Organization, in country we recorded close to about 10 cases, and it was 1 who died. The death rate has not been that high, and then people don't come up with severe complications as we've been observing until this outbreak, where the cases have clustered at one school, and then the death rate is very high. So that is the situation that we've been monitoring very closely. Okay. And every week, cases of signs and symptoms that could be acute respiratory infection, possibly influenza-like illnesses, are sent to the National Influenza Center here that we have in Noguchi. It's not only for the country. It's influenza center for our sub-region.
How prepared are our country's hospitals, especially with holding room or considering the degree of infection of a patient?
See, preparation is a process, and at any time you keep improving. And at the time that you were anticipating to have Ebola in country, you were lucky you didn't have it. There were adequate preparations, and all health facilities were requested to designate places for isolation when you have a disease condition that can be contagious. What we require, which we don't have now, is infectious disease hospital. Okay. And we need to work on this very seriously. Center of excellence that would have the facility, the infrastructure, the personnel, the capacity built adequately to international standard to take care of all infectious disease conditions, so that the staff handling it will feel secured, and then the people that are affected would also be given the maximum support. We need this, and I'm aware that the Ministry of Health and then the Ghana Health Service leadership have started a process to get infectious disease hospital. But but now you should have had it. So these steps having been initiated have to be taken very serious, and as a country, we need to designate a place where you manage very serious infections that have potential of mass spreading, so that you would enhance the health security of the country.
Now, within our communities, what should be done as individuals to avert the spread of these viruses?
Right. There's a lot that the community members should have. The first and foremost, information on the condition should be given out, and the health authorities, health information ministry have been designated to give out the information to the general population, and that the signs and symptoms, what it is, and how to prevent and protect against. We need to enhance all the preventive mechanisms. Prevention pays, and need to invest into it. As individuals, what we can do to help is to strengthen our sanitary conditions, environmental sanitation, and personal hygiene. Okay. Personal hygiene, hand washing of soap and water is very effective. And then the use of hand sanitizers can also complement. It's very effective. This is a condition that spreads airborne, so by droplets. So practicing and adhering to cough etiquettes is very helpful, so that you protect yourself and protect your dear ones. And then the need for adhere to sneezing etiquettes is also very helpful. You protect yourself and protect dear ones. Okay. Health staff should be sensitized, have been informed and being sensitized to have high index of suspicion, so that if somebody comes up with symptoms that could be the condition, you need to think simple symptoms of acute respiratory infection. Think H1N1 as well, and the necessary investigations that need to be done, samples to be taken and sent to appropriate lab for confirmation. This is a condition that you cannot diagnose in a district or regional lab. You need to send the sample to the National Influenza Center for the necessary investigations to be done for confirmation. We have effective system for contact tracing. As soon as you suspect a case, you should let the health authorities know, so that the contacts should be identified and followed up actively, so that if any of them are coming down with signs and symptoms that would mean further spread, then the people would also be contained adequately, and minimize undue mix-up of the cases and the rest of the general population, to make sure that you break transmission as early as possible. So these are the things that you put in place to make sure that quickly the necessary prevention, the necessary detection, the necessary response mechanisms would be implemented to ensure that, one, we get to the end, at the bottom of this outbreak as soon as possible and declare over, and subsequently over the years, or over the period, prevent further occurrences.
Now, finally, Kufuor Sectec, what is currently being done to prevent the spread of meningitis? That is what the case is, right? Yes, what is currently being done?
The spread of meningitis is also similar to this, and mostly through spread by coughing airborne. So the same mechanisms that we propose for this, as adhering to cough etiquettes, sneezing etiquettes, and then people reporting early as possible. The symptoms and signs of meningitis include fever, headache, neck pain, neck stiffness, and then dislike for light. As you are facing this light, if it were a case of meningitis, then you have some reaction and the person doesn't want to face the light. You call that photophobia. So these are typical, and there you have a treatment for it. You have effective antibiotic. Some of them have vaccines There's various types, and we have vaccines for some of them. Indeed, we introduced the type A vaccines in all the 3 northern regions, and that has almost eliminated the type A meningitis in the country. And that is why we are not having massive outbreaks. And as much as we have reduced that, other serotypes are also coming up. The W type, which we've had some outbreak, is becoming more prominent, and then the C type that we had for that of Kumaka in April, and then we had also the C in Obuasi 2010, and again Ofuase in Asante Akim South District, also in Ashanti region. So the C types seem to be in the middle belt, and these are coming up. So we need to prepare. And when it happens, we pick it early, and then once there's the need to provide the necessary protection.
Well, so you learned a thing or two about H1N1 there from Dr. Bedu Sarkodie. He's the Director of Public Health at Ghana Health Service. But Bright, it's time for us to go to make way for what shows us? Afro Tales.
Great. It's been a wonderful Monday morning. I'm sure we've served you the best of breakfast, and that means.
Did you say Monday?
Oh, today's Tuesday. Okay, great.
You're taking us back.
Yeah. And so we're sure that we're doing the best of breakfast that will make you ready for the day. We're so grateful that you're still there with us. This is how we're wrapping up the show for now. We'll be back tomorrow to do the midweek edition, promising to be more exciting, more beneficial to you. Stay right here on TV3.
Certainly.
We are
and in the evening, it will be Sadia. So tune in, and tomorrow's solutions will be on your screens at 8 p.m. So all of you stay tuned in. Have a good day. Stay blessed.